So this video has no intro whatsoever. We're gonna go right into this thing. When you look at Andre Drummond, you see a big guy who can move around the floor really frickin' well. And you also see a guy whose athleticism, as well as finishing ability around the rim, allows him to be a hell of a pick and roll player. And a play that is so popular in today's game just because it provides spacing and it accentuates three-point shooting. It is good that Drummond has the skill set of being able to use his body to block some dude from moving sideways, and then he can run in a straight line and then catch a ball and finish at the basket. I don't know why I decided to describe a pick and roll in such a prehistoric way, but I decided to do it anyway. And I think that was the one offensive trait that Drummond has had that really showed pretty much as early on in his career as you can go back. And that's what the Pistons have used to really make his point totals go up. And of course, the dude can rebound. One of the best rebounders in the NBA for the past few seasons now. And the thing with rebounding is, it can make teams that are not really balanced, one team's clearly better than the other. It can make the team that's not as good actually have a chance to win just because maybe they don't get as many offensive rebounds and you yourself get quite a few offensive boards, then you use that to put it back up and in or get to the free throw line, whatever. I mean, those two abilities that Drummond has, the ability to roll on the screen as well as just rebounding, make him a very intriguing player at only the age of, 23 years old right now, even if he's been in the NBA for a decent amount of time at this point. And then we can also just talk about his overall athleticism. And it's these things that, when you look at Drummond, you say, maybe he could develop himself into a franchise center, someone who can jet up and down the floor multiple times, get back on defense, grab a rebound, come down, and then finish at the other end. When you have these sort of physical tools, you can be special at the center position. I think some comparisons he drew were to Dwight Howard back in his Orlando Magic days because of both of their abilities to, be athletic and rebound and all that. Can Drummond get to those levels? The Dwight Howard, Orlando Magic type of levels? Well, we went over what he did well. We have to talk about some of the things he needs to work on. His offensive game is pretty weak overall in terms of creating his own shot. If we talk about him in the low post, I think there have been signs of him developing some sort of skills down there, whether it be pump fakes, up and unders, hook shots. I don't think I've ever seen a turnaround jumper, but he's shown some stuff there. But it's definitely not consistent to the point where you can throw him the ball down low and just let him go to work. It would be great if he could develop that part of his game, because if we're talking about being a real franchise piece that everyone wants Drummond to be, you have to be able to create your own offense, and at a time where the team just ain't putting the ball in the basket for whatever reason, they can rely on you to do just that, and as of right now, you really can't do that with Andre. As far as any sort of jump shot, he has shown no life of being a mid-range shooter. I'm not even asking him to be a three-point shooter. I mean, that would be great if he could join the guys like Joel Embiid and Marc Gasol and Brook Lopez, the fives who are hitting threes. I'll just take a mid-range jumper at this point from Drummond because, if he could do that, it would allow the Pistons so much more versatility in their offense. But then, of course, there is the free throw shooting. I don't have the percentage in front of me, but you and I both know it's really frickin' bad. Sometimes it leads to him not being in games late because, if he gets fouled, you're basically giving away points because he's under 50% from the free throw line. And if Drummond can't create his own shot, can't shoot, can't hit free throws, what really is his offensive limit? And then we have to talk about his defense. I think some people believe Drummond is like this all-world defensive player. Maybe it's because he fits the template of one with his size and physical traits, and for some reason 2K thinks he's an awesome defensive player. Drummond defensively, I would say, has shown some ability of being a real stopper and someone who can cause resistance for an offense, but I also think he lacks physicality for whatever reason. I also think just his smarts are not the best. His defensive rating is 108.9, which would rank the Pistons 26th in defense. And defensive rating for centers is actually more accurate than it is for perimeter players. Like, Rudy Gobert's defensive rating would make the Jazz the best defensive team in the NBA. Hassan Whiteside's at 105.3 would make Miami 11th. Then you have Joel Embiid. His defensive rating would actually be at 99, making the Sixers by far the best defensive team this season. Similar things can be said for DeAndre Jordan, as his would make the Clippers 5th in the league. So I know that sometimes you can use defensive rating and you can say, yeah, well, according to defensive rating, Kawhi Leonard's like not that good on defense when we all know he's awesome. It seems to make more sense with centers. Steven Adams would be around number 5 as well. Anthony Davis would be around number 3 for defensive rating. Drummond is just not in the same ballpark as those guys. Rim protection, covering pick and rolls, being able to play defense outside of the paint, all those type of things that you need to be able to do. And Drummond, I mean, he's just not a natural defensive player right now. So a result of all this is like, if you're someone who can't lead a defense, and you also can't be the leader of an offense, then as of right now, no, Andre Drummond is not a franchise player, but do I think he could develop those abilities just given what he is right now, which is a super intriguing 23-year-old center who can grab rebounds and catch alley-oops like a crazy person? Well, I was mean to Andre for a few minutes, so let's go back to the positives for him for the next bit here. Last season in 2016, his defensive rating was actually 102.3, significantly better than it has been this season. So I'm not going to say that it's just a loss that he's not going to be a defensive player. Should also be said, like I've mentioned, the dude is athletic as hell. When you have that, the potential's there for you to just be able to move along the floor well and cover a lot of ground, but he's also being coached by Stan Van Gundy, who is one of the best defensive minds in the NBA. He was, of course, the coach behind those Magic teams that were fantastic on defense, and Stan's just a really good head coach overall. I would hope that the Pistons organization realizes that and does not fire Stan Van because of some knee-jerk reaction to the Pistons not being the best, whether it be for this offseason or moving forward. And I think Drummond would really benefit from Van Gundy just further teaching him how to really be successful on that side of the floor, which I think he can be. And I think that would be like the one part of Drummond's game that I'd really want to see develop right now would be the defense, because, I mean, it's just physicality and knowing what you're doing. In terms of developing skills, I mean, it's not as difficult as it is offensively, and we can also talk about offense to be a little nicer to Drummond as well. Reggie Jackson proved to be not a very good fit for the Pistons this season. Drummond benefited a lot from his pick and rolls. Now, there is a counter argument, which is if you need a decent point guard to be a real offensive option, then once again, you're not a franchise player. But I don't think anyone thinks Drummond is that right now. The question is, can he develop into that? And what I would say is, he has quite an uphill climb to go on his offense, but I think all the tools are there to be really frickin' good on defense, just given verticality, speed, lateral quickness, very good defensive head coach in his ear every day. I expect the defensive game to take off around the rebounding and the athleticism. The offense, that one might be a different story outside of offensive rebounds and finishing at the rim.